Welcome back to New Rockstars. I'm Erik Voss, and this is a breakdown of the trailer for The Mandalorian and Grogu, the 2026 film and the first Star Wars movie coming to theaters in 7 years, and a spin-off from the Disney Plus series. In this video, I'm going to break down where this storyline left off 2.5 years ago, what this film is, and Easter eggs and details that you might have missed in this trailer. And an announcement, New Rockstars is launching a spin-off horror channel called The Witching Hour. Starting October 1st, you can see Jessica Clemons, Gina, Ippolito, and me in weekly video essays with some hot takes of what scares us the most about our favorite horror films. Please consider subscribing and roll that trailer.
Impressive.
Good shot, baby.
The trailer opens on the planet Adelphi, home of the Adelphi base that we saw in the Mandalorian Season 3 episode, Chapter 21, The Pirate, and several episodes after that. This is a New Republic Blue Squadron base with a few X-Wings and Y-Wings parked there, and some hangars that they converted into pilot bars with Imperial helmet trophies, and where people like Zeb hang out, as well as Carson Teva and Trapper Wolf, though maybe that was just Dave Filoni drinking on the set and no one told him the cameras are rolling, because you know that's just how he spends his time. He just wanders onto these sets and it's like, I'm just gonna screw around. It was in this bar where, at the end of Season 3 of The Mandalorian, Din Djarin made a deal with Carson Teva to work as an independent contractor for the New Republic to help them run down the Imperial Remnant, referring to the other Imperial bosses and the Shadow Council who would chat with Moff Gideon and plan for the return of Grand Admiral Thrawn, and we saw that guy return in the first season of Ahsoka. The Mandalorian Season 3 focused mostly on the whole lore of the Mandalorian clans, and Bo-Katan returning as the leader of the united people of Mandalore that they were able to liberate from the forces of Moff Gideon, and there were some teases that a Mythosar is somewhere deep down in the waters of that planet. This movie seems to be building off of the Imperial Remnant and the Shadow Council that we saw teased in the penultimate episode of that third season, and one of those Imperial warlords is going to be the villain of this movie, played by Johnny Coyne. We see in this opening shot Din Djarin's new Razor Crest approaching. It was confirmed at Celebration that Mando rebuilt the Razor Crest after it was destroyed in Season 2 in that Robert Rodriguez directed episode. Since then, he's been piloting a retrofitted N1 Naboo starfighter with a little jump seat for Grogu. We don't yet know why he scrapped the N1 though. Why would you ever get rid of that? It's sick. But this Razor Crest has some yellow plating on it. It's like the old one, but it's got yellow stripes. Either way, it's roomier. It seems like, you know, a Popeye upgrading to a minivan. Din and Grogu peer out from behind a sand dune on a beach that looks like it could also be on Adelphi. Maybe the base has been threatened in some way. But while it looks like Grogu is looking through what he thinks is a telescope of some kind, now we see through binocular lenses at what looks like a full Imperial base with stormtroopers walking around. I think that's a shot from a different scene because these binoculars are clearly bifocals, and whatever Grogu is looking out of looks like it might just be like a piece of a pipe or something. Babu Frick returns from The Mandalorian Season 3, leading Grogu down a sewer pipe. We hear the horns of Ludwig Göransson's Mandalorian theme. He is confirmed to be returning as composer for this film. Din meets up with Ward, Sigourney Weaver's character. She's a colonel and the leader of the New Republic's Adelphi Rangers. She previously served as a pilot for the Rebel Alliance, so I assume we're gonna get some backstory for her about how she fought maybe at the Battle of Endor. It looks like they're sitting in a cleaned up version of the Adelphi base pilot bar, and now Din Djarin is coming to claim some of that contractor work that he set up with Carson Teva. Getting Sigourney Weaver for a Star Wars anything is pretty cool because she auditioned for Princess Leia in the 1977 film, but she obviously lost out the part to Carrie Fisher because Weaver was too tall. And one of my favorite movie details ever is that Sigourney Weaver, when she was cast a couple years later as Ripley in Ridley Scott's Alien, in the final scene of that film, she improvises singing "You Are My Lucky Star, which is a song from Singin' in the Rain, a song sung by Carrie Fisher's mother, Debbie Reynolds. Grogu uses the Force to summon a bowl of snacks, and Ward is like, you ain't cute to me, kid. That's my lunch. We see a Nicole Kidman AMC puddle that Din steps into, reflecting some Orabesh on neon signs. We see the word spice and the den. Spice? As in like drugs? Just put on display in a neon sign like this? It's like putting the word cocaine on a sign. But I don't know. If you were in Miami in the 80s, you might have seen that. Years ago, I got this unexpected payment for a job I had finished a long time ago. For me, someone who's naturally anxious about money, that felt like a safety net. My first thought was, great, this will help if things get tight later on. But then a friend of mine who isn't nearly as anxious about money told me, you should splurge, buy yourself a new PlayStation. So I did. And the second that money was gone, the regret set in. I couldn't stop thinking about how I should have saved it. Instead of feeling relieved, I ended up more stressed than before, losing sleep, worrying about bills, and kicking myself for making that choice. That advice worked for him, but it created more anxiety for me. And that's the thing. Anyone can give you advice, but that doesn't mean it's the right advice for you. That's why I'm glad BetterHelp is sponsoring today's video, and they are on a mission to make starting therapy easier. Unlike friends or strangers who mean well but don't fully understand your situation, therapy gives you a safe space with someone trained to help you work through what you're going through. I know firsthand how much the right fit matters. I once worked with a therapist who just wasn't right for me. Their approach left me feeling unheard and stuck, but later when I found the right therapist, everything changed, and it created an environment where I could work through my problems honestly without self-censoring. I could finally open up honestly and start making progress. That's why BetterHelp created the Therapist Match Commitment to take the guesswork out of finding the right therapist. Instead of leaving you to figure it out alone, BetterHelp uses over a decade of matching expertise, clinical experience, and your preferences to match you with someone who makes sense for you. And if it's not working out, you can switch anytime at no extra cost. Therapy has made such a difference in my life, and it can do the same for you. So if you've ever felt stuck with advice that didn't help, BetterHelp makes it easier to find the right kind of support. You can get started today by clicking on the link in the description or by visiting betterhelp.com/newrockstars, and you will get 10% off your first month of therapy. I assume it's on the inside of this bar where Din Djarin launches this dude across the bar, smashing into bottles. Behind him in this shot looks like an Iktachi species. That's a species of Saesee Tin, the Jedi Master. Hanging throughout this bar appear to be bird cages, causing feathers to fly everywhere during the fight. I want to know what they're doing with these birds. Are they just having those birds lay eggs that drop into their ramen or something? Now here in this muddy water, we see a snake-like creature. This is called an Amani. These were designed for Return of the Jedi. We saw an Amani bounty hunter named Amanaman at Jabba's palace. They later showed up in the Clone Wars A Death on Utapau episode, and they live in the rock caves we see on Utapau. You remember the planet in Revenge of the Sith, but they're actually native to the planet Meridun. In Disneyland's Black Spire Outpost Market, an Amani named Bina operates the creature stall. Din Djarin and Grogu are in the cockpit of this new Razor Crest. The ship goes into dive as it's chased by what looks like some TIE interceptors. We see Grogu swimming in the water, at first struggling on the surface and then confidently swimming under the waves. And a very quick shot of Zeb as he leaps off the walls with his bow rifle that can be used as an electro staff, and then other times it's a blaster rifle. He fights a stormtrooper. Zeb, remember, is the Lasat species, and I like how you can see his feet with his toes as he uses them to grapple on the wall here. So Zeb, or Gara Zeb Aurelios, before he appeared at the Adelphi base in live action in The Mandalorian Season 3, was a member of the crew of the Ghosts throughout the Star Wars Rebels series, alongside Harrison Dula and Sabine Wren and Ezra Bridger and Chopper, all of whom we saw later on in live action on the Ahsoka series. Next we see Grogu riding with Babu Frick and his fellow Enzelans and their little speeder, and then Din Djarin flies upward with Grogu toward, I think that's a U-Wing. I love U-Wings, especially since they were introduced in Rogue One and now they came back in Andor. Then we are in a fighting arena with Rata the Hutt. Rata the Hutt is the son of Jabba the Hutt, and he's a character that we originally saw as a baby in the Clone Wars, the animated movie that became in effect a pilot to the Clone Wars animated series when Anakin Skywalker and Ahsoka Tano were on a mission to return Rata the Hutt to Jabba. Rata is played in this movie by Jeremy Allen White. Yes, from The Bear and that Springsteen movie. We do not see his face here, but we do hear him shouting this. Maybe it's just the setting of all this, but this does remind me of the trailer for Thor Ragnarok like 8 years ago when Thor was in a similar gladiator arena and had a similar expression. Yes! Grogu in the stand snacks on some popcorn. This looks like the multicolored Outpost mix of popcorn that you can get at Disney's Galaxy's Edge. There's also similar popcorn that they eat in the Bad Batch, the Mantellin mix on Ord Mantell. So why is Rata in this movie? I don't know. But the Hutt twins that we met in the Book of Boba Fett from Now Hutta appear on this movie's poster. Which could inform the next shot we see Din Djarin fighting these two scrapped together giant droids guarding this door with the insignia of the Hutt cartel. Maybe there's some kind of heist that Din Djarin and Grogu have to pull off to steal some important asset that's currently possessed by the Hutts to prevent that asset from getting in the hands of the Imperial remnant. One thing I will give this movie is that many of the effects do look practical, and they seem to be moving with the same kind of stop motion-y animation that the original trilogy film's large vehicles and creatures did. We see a different combat matchup in the pit where Din Djarin wrestles what looks like a Mantellin Savrip. This was originally a Djarik holochess piece that we saw in the 1977 film and often appears anytime we see characters in Star Wars playing Djarik. So it makes this entire gladiator arena kind of a giant practical chessboard for whoever's betting on these matches. If that popcorn Grogu is eating is the same kind they ate on Bad Batch, this planet very well could be Ord Mantell. So we're kind of looking at a story that's set on the Adelphi base on Adelphi, maybe on Ord Mantell, and one that ultimately goes to Now Hutta, and then whatever this snowy mountainous location is. That's where we go next. The shot that ended the very fun long take that we saw in the celebration footage from April of this year, where Mando fought his way from the back of an Imperial AT-AT or walker that was part of a caravan going up this snowy mountain path. Now he jetpacks out of the bridge with Grogu as it explodes and tips sideways down a mountainside. The walker even seems to moan as it falls, which I am choosing to see as a reference to Steven Spielberg's Duel, wherein Steven Spielberg included an animalistic in the truck as it falls to its death because he wanted the truck to be seen as a beastly predator. After the title reveal, we get this stinger with Grogu and Babu Frick encountering this thing in the sewers, and Grogu blinding it with whatever this goo is.
Good shot, baby.
Again, another example of what seems to be a solid practical effect. Now, based on this trailer alone, we could admit that as the first Star Wars movie after 7 years, the longest ever theatrical gap in the Disney era, is something that feels like a somewhat expanded and extra kid-friendly episode of a Disney Plus show really gonna be what restores the magic of seeing Star Wars on the big screen again and fulfill those promises of dazzling images on a huge silver screen that Nicole Kidman waxes poetic about? There were rumors that this storyline was turned into a movie instead of the original plan for a 4th season of The Mandalorian. So I don't know if this is just gonna feel like a big episode of The Mandalorian or a movie that delivers on its own promises. But hey, seeing Star Wars in a movie theater again is something that I've been missing. Comment down below with your thoughts on this trailer, and a special thanks to one of our YouTube members, Bro, for supporting us at the executive producer level. Follow me at EA Voss and subscribe to all the channels in the New Rockstars network for breakdowns and news coverage of everything you love. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.